Oh boy. So, in the days since the election special, some things have certainly gotten interesting and or horrifying. Are we talking about Antifa targeting Tucker Carlson? Are we talking about Broward County still being corrupt as hell? Among other things. My name is Micah Curtis.
And I'm Alex Baldwin, also known as The Hatman.
And welcome back to Micah and The Hatman on Politics Live. Alright. I am happy to be back. Believe it or not...
I'm not happy because I don't have a suit.
Yes.
Mine's in the wash.
Hatman is nowhere... Well, Hatman's never as stylish as I am.
Well, yeah.
But especially today.
Considering that's my backup suit.
Yeah, I've still got your primary. Yeah. So, hopefully I'll get that shipped over to you soon. But,
well, no rush. Mostly just a rush to get it out of the cleaners. But
yeah,
anyway.
I've just been strapped for cash lately between paying artists and all this other bullshit. So
that's no worries. That's why I keep a backup.
Yep, but
it's just I don't have a backup of the backup. Not yet.
I just need to start telling you whenever I see a sale on Joseph A. Bank.
You might have to do that.
Yeah, because like these suits are so nice. I am sick as a dog, and I'm still super comfortable in it. Like, that's crazy to me. So, for those who don't know, I was struck with a stomach bug. I spent yesterday trying to keep my my organs from coming out my rear orifice. Like, it was not fun. And today, my blood pressure's all out of whack, so I'm drinking wine way earlier than I should. Well, it's 5 o'clock, so I guess I'm all right. So... I'm a little worn down. I dropped 9 pounds of water weight. So when I weighed in earlier today, I was at 331 pounds. So oddly enough, though, it is the lowest I have weighed in 4 years. So I'm feeling okay, all things considered. You know, I'm just kind of hoping to... you know, keep myself up and upright today, and I'll probably turn in right after we're done. But we have a lot of cool stuff to talk about today between both podcasts. We also got a lot of you know, terrible things to talk about too. Starting off with Antifa targeting the home of one Tucker Carlson. Now, Tucker has been a controversial guy in right-wing media for a long time, all the way back to Crossfire on CNN, which oddly enough, when I was younger, in my college days, was like the one political show I actually enjoyed watching because it was a debate. It was a constant debate between a liberal and a conservative, and it really, you know, at the time I didn't have a political side. If anything, I leaned left when I was younger, which is true of a lot of people. And it was interesting to see these debates go on, especially, you know, this was during the Iraq War and things like that. And even though I considered myself more to the left than the right at the time, I did support the war. My opinions largely have not changed on that in regards to mission, just execution. My opinions have changed, talking to veterans and things like that to get more of a better picture of what happened over there. Needless to say, though, Tucker was the target of Antifa. They attempted to break into his home. And while protesting, as some people are trying to spin it,
they cracked an oak door.
Mm-hmm. And thankfully, his children were not home. His wife was, though. She locked herself in their pantry and called the police, scared out of her mind. Mm-hmm. And I swear to God, the worst take I've ever seen came from Maddie Iglesias from Vox, one of the co-founders of Vox.
Yeah.
Basically excusing this. What happens if that door gets broken down? Is my question to people like that.
Who cares? They're a fascist. Who cares?
Supposedly. These people don't know what fascism is.
They don't, but they still believe in the direct action regardless, which means that if a fascist gets their door broken down, oh fucking well, that's on them. They deserve it because they're a horrible fascist. If a fascist gets their nose broken, oh well, it's their fault. If a fascist just happens to be gunned down in the fucking street, well, that's just too bad. Maybe they shouldn't have been so fashy.
Well, fuck all of that.
Yeah.
Because here's the fact of the matter. I have never heard Tucker Carlson put out anything that would come close to fascism at all.
Absolutely not.
You know, and I've been listening to his program off and on for the last year or two. You know, on top of that, if we lived in a fascist nation right now, Matty Iglesias would be dead. As would every single left-wing journalist. They would all be lined up in the streets and shot.
Or imprisoned.
Or imprisoned. We would have had the Night of Long Knives already. We have not. We'll be talking about Jim Acosta later. Jim Acosta would be dead. A lot of these people would be dead if we lived in a fascist state. So don't come here and tell me, and this is my message to any lefty out there who agrees with that sentiment, do not come here and tell me that we live in a fascist state. You have never experienced fascism. You have no knowledge of fascism. If you live here in the United States, you are richer than the rest of the world. And we have become so rich and so stupid that we think that a guy like Tucker Carlson, for saying that immigration law should be enforced, is a fascist. Fuck you.
Well, they talked about the victims of Tucker Carlson, too. Like, who the hell is he victimized? Like, are they honestly equating, like, the lefties that he dunks on his show with victims? What the fuck is this shit?
They don't even know what the word victim means anymore.
Well, no. Victim is anyone who is considered marginalized, basically.
Yeah. Well, who are the victims in America is something I constantly wonder. Which one of us is really a victim? Outside of maybe one or two occurrences in our lives where someone goes out of their way to screw your day up or your world up. But even then, victim is not a status that you are constantly going to have. Mm-hmm. Victim is a temporary thing. If you say to yourself, I will not remain a victim, I will become something greater than what I was the day before.
I mean, it's all for political purposes. They're exploited up until the very point in which they have power, in which case they are historically exploited, and then they still need to retain that power because you wronged me for so many millennia before this. I mean, that's why we always end up going back to, well, hundreds of years of slavery or thousands of years of patriarchal society, you know, bullshit like that. Because even when you finally solve the power dynamics, they still try to play it off like there's an imbalance of power. It's not about finding equality for these people. It's about finding equity, tipping the scales rather than balancing them out.
Yeah, well, Rex Warden's kind of giving me shit in the chat. Love you, Rex. I'm glad to see you back, by the way. But that's not quite what I mean, is all of us have had bad shit happen to us. But it is whether or not we will dwell upon those things, or we're going to continue to move forward in our lives, that really show part of our character. You know, Hatman and I have our own, what's the word I would be looking for? Our own limp, our own crippling experience as well. But it's whether or not we're willing to stand forward and or at least help other people to show the strength of our character that really defines us. Rex, I would even say that you're somebody who has shown the strength of his character. When I was down and out, and I was about to lose my apartment, you gave me $100 to help me pay my rent. And I am indebted to you for that. That's a strong character move. You helped somebody out when he needed it. That's a good man. So cheers to you, my friend. But that is what defines character, in my opinion. Is how we, not how we react to certain things. But here's the thing. I want to get on a different point. Is when we see things like that, I ask myself, why has Antifa not been declared across the United States to be a terrorist organization? I'm genuinely curious about that.
I think it comes mostly from a misunderstanding of what Antifa is. And it's similar to how people have defined feminist as just someone who wants equality between the sexes. You know, if you want that, then you're a feminist. Well, no, if you want that, then you just have common sense in modern society. Like, that's pretty much a no-brainer. I mean, are you going to call yourself a slavery abolitionist because you believe that people should not be enslaved? No, there's no point in that label anymore. But they've sort of used that same tactic to say, well, if you're against fascism, then you're Antifa. Because all it means is anti-fascist. No, it means anti-fascist action, as in direct action, as in you have to get violent. You have to engage who you describe as fascists.
Yes.
And specifically, you have to engage fascism in order to overthrow the state, in order to implement a socialist utopia, because that's the only way to cure fascism, because fascism is established by states and by capitalism and all that fucking nonsense.
Yeah. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah. But it absolutely needs to be declared a terrorist organization. I mean, just like I said, their ultimate goal is to overthrow the state. How is that not terrorism?
Yeah, exactly. And that's what really gets me. I mean, they look at somebody like Tucker Carlson as the state media because he happens to agree with whoever's been elected in power at the moment. Well, if that's the case, then was Don Lemon state media 3 years ago? They'll never answer that question. They'll just punch you. But that's the way things are. In the press, there are going to be people who agree with you and those who disagree with you. You know, and that's perfectly fine. I have no issue with that. I don't expect everyone to agree with me or to have the same perspective. Many of them are wrong and we're right, but we're not called the wrong wing. But in all seriousness, though, the thing about this is that there is I genuinely wonder why it hasn't happened yet. I'm hoping that since, you know, we're obviously not going to get much law passed in the next 2 years, that Trump will start focusing on this and see this sort of thing, because he's known Tucker Carlson for years, and say something needs to happen here. But then again, that's Trump's job. He is the head of law enforcement. So I don't think he'll ever watch this, but Mr. President, please, for the sake of the safety of your citizens, you need to declare this group a terrorist organization, and moves need to be made to bring them down. Because at the end of the day, like Hatman said, their goal is an overthrowing of the greatest nation on earth. They are a direct threat to democracy. No, sorry, wrong word. To the republic.
Yeah.
Because that's what we are. We are a republic. And we are the greatest that's ever existed. And we will continue to be such. So.
Hopefully, now that we're getting a new attorney general, some shit will get done.
He seems to be even stricter than Sessions was. The Sessions was a pretty strict guy. I just think that we'll talk. That wasn't one of our subjects, but I'll mention that real quick. I'm sad to see Jeff go. Honestly, I like Jeff Sessions quite a bit. He's a very principled man. I just think his targets were wrong at the end of the day. I think that he should have been a lot more focused on things that were going on inside the government itself than really like drugs, which really aren't our top priority right now, outside of the opioid epidemic, which Trump already declared a mass emergency. But his immigration focus was spot on. He basically let ICE do whatever they needed to do, which was a very smart move on Sessions' part. But he's saying that he's apparently going to run for his old seat again in Alabama. Absolutely. I would love to have Jeff Sessions back in the Senate, because that is a very principled guy who, oddly enough, compared to a lot of lefties out there, did a lot more for civil rights than they ever will. That's a man who broke the back of the KKK in Alabama. Sadly, we don't have enough time to talk about that, but look that up sometime. Jeff Sessions was a beast when it came to the courts, and he was a hell of a senator. So he just didn't do as well as the attorney general as we would have hoped. But anyway, prayers, of course, to Tucker Carlson's family. Hopefully, he's reacted well to this and said, "I will not be silenced. I will still take a stand for what I believe in." That's the American way. It's the American way. What he said reminded me of Denzel Washington's speech in Remember the Titans when those racist shits threw a brick through his window. That's how you're supposed to behave. You say, I will not let this deter me from what I know I need to do. So, good man. All right, Broward County, outside of Washington, D.C., apparently is still the most corrupt county in the United States. Hatman, let the people know, or take the lead on this one. What has basically been the big problem with Broward County this time?
So, Broward County's, I guess, election supervisor? Is that her title?
I think
So. Brenda Snipes. She's been involved in some election meddling in the past since, I think, 2002. And she's still around, and she's meddling in this election too, it looks like, suddenly finding a whole bunch of new ballots, even though there's a law in place that says, you have to count all the, or at least give the number of all the provisional and early ballots, out-of-state ballots, that sort of thing, 30 days beforehand. Or something of the sort. Anything. Anyway, there's no way that you should have extra ballots in. And suddenly she's finding a whole bunch. And it's Broward County and, oh, hell. What's the other one? There's one more county that's recounting like a motherfucker.
I can't recall.
I don't recall either off the top of my head. But anyway, it's two counties that are basically recounting all their ballots. And this is to pretty much decide both the governor's race and the Senate race, which are still very, very close, but have Republicans leading by less than 1%.
Yes, which obviously wasn't part of the original count. And then all of a sudden, these ballots seem to appear from nowhere.
Palm Beach County. Thank you, Hard World Entertainment.
Yeah, and and Marco Rubio called this out immediately.
Yep.
And apparently brought it to the president's attention, which is the last thing that these counties wanted.
Yeah. So now they have a judge's order to surrender everything.
Yep.
To go ahead and just put it all in there. And Snipes is defying this order.
And she can't.
No.
She's going to be thrown in jail for doing so.
Mm-hmm.
As she should, because this is election tampering.
Mm-hmm. And this is how the Miami Herald has described it. Whoops! Brenda Snipes' office mixed bad provisional ballots with good ones.
You spin me right round, baby right round, like a record baby, right round, round, round. Give me a fucking break.
Mm-hmm. So, election fraud?
Yeah. Very, yes. Very yes. That's basically the best way to put it with butter strong bad.
Yeah. Yeah, pretty much. And this isn't even to mention lawyers for Andrew Gillum and, oh shoot, who's the Democrat from Florida in the Senate? Of course I'm going to forget the time I have to take lead on
DeSantis?
shit. Yes. Wait. Say that one more time?
Which side are you pulling from?
I'm not pulling from a site. I'm saying who was the Democrat from Florida that was in the Senate?
Oh, I can't remember, but we're losing connection to YouTube.
Anyway, hell. Well,
yeah,
anyway,
back. It's just keep going.
Anyway, lawyers for both Democratic candidates objected to, I kid you not, objected to a vote from someone who is not a citizen of the United States being discarded.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nelson, thank you. Yes.